Hello and welcome to the program. Coming up in 10 days on July 30th, it's World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. It's a day established by the United Nations to raise awareness about the horrific crime of human trafficking, which affects millions of people around the world. The World Day Against Trafficking in Persons comes on the heels of the highly publicized trial of hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs, who is facing charges of sex trafficking and racketeering. Although he was acquitted of the most serious charges, he was found guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Diddy's trial highlights the fact that human trafficking is not something that happens in other countries with seedy individuals in back alleys or in poor neighborhoods. It happens right here in the United States among all types of people, including the rich and famous. And it happens right here in North Texas. So today we're going to talk about this crime. And joining me in studio today is Bianca Davis. Bianca is the Chief Executive Officer of New Friends, New Life, an incredible nonprofit that not only raises awareness about the issue of human trafficking, but that also helps those who have been trafficked. Their mission to restore and empower trafficked and sexually exploited teen girls, women, and their children. Bianca, thank you so much for being on the program today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Bianca, what was your reaction to the Diddy verdict?
My initial reaction was disappointment and disgust. I think that verdict sends such a dangerous message to the community that these sex crimes, including sex trafficking, domestic violence, that it's okay or that it isn't even real. And it also reminded me of just how far we still have to go in educating people all the way from community members to lawmakers about what this crime really looks like and how it happened. So it was a sad day for us in this anti-trafficking space.
What Diddy's former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, went through is something that you have been privy to in helping the women that you serve. What do you want people to know about the Cassie Venturas of the world?
I want people to know, first of all, that she is so brave to come forward and to share such horrific details of the trauma that she endured. I want people to know that we believe victims. We believe that she is a victim, and like so many others who will never have their stories portrayed in the media or captured on television, that it happens so subtly and that it isn't bad every day. I think the public gets confused when they see her smiling or they see her as a willing girlfriend. She's having good days. They're going on dates. I think it's confusing to the public, but we want people to know that it's not bad every day, that one of the traps that keeps people in this world is that sometimes there are good days. Sometimes you do love the person. Sometimes they do give you the flowers and tell you that you're so important or that was an accident, it will never happen again. And so it's not bad every day, and that worked to her disadvantage, I believe, on the stand.
Don't you feel that had there not been the video of him abusing her in that hotel, that the majority of people wouldn't have believed her because she did stay in that relationship?
Yes.
Horrible, toxic relationship.
Right. The video evidence, it's sad that we still need that. We choose to believe victims. We know that a lot of the trauma isn't just physical force, because the definition of sex trafficking, the federal definition, is the use of force, fraud, or coercion to compel someone to commit a sexual act. And the force, that physical abuse, is the one piece that we can all see. And we can look at that and say, that's wrong, shouldn't have happened. But how do you prove coercion, or how do you prove fraud? So the law itself makes it very difficult to try these cases successfully. And sadly, the onus is still on the victim to prove that it happened to her, when we should be able to look at the perpetrator and say, you did this and that's wrong. So we still have so far to go legally to make real changes so that more victims can come forward and be believed and get the justice that they deserve.
What is your wish, Bianca, when it comes to what we can learn from the Sean Diddy Combs case?
I think we can learn that sex trafficking doesn't happen to just other people in other places, and that this tie of power, influence, money, status is so integral to the crime. So it validates and reaffirms the need for agencies like New Friends to Life that are out there informing the public, raising awareness, and also serving survivors. The women and girls that come to our doors with pieces of their life in their hand, like, I didn't get an education. I don't have work experience. I have this emotional trauma. How can you help me? We want people to know that we are serving women and girls like that every day. And even if every person that's on trial gets off, it doesn't stop us from serving survivors because they deserve it.
Do you have to fight that misconception all the time that this happens in third world countries or in the bad zip codes, and that it doesn't happen in Plano and Frisco in these nice neighborhoods?
Right.
And that the perpetrators are not the rich and the famous, the people that have high standing in a community?
Yes, we're still fighting those misconceptions. And sometimes it's because of Hollywood. You know, you see the movies, and in many cases, it's like the movie Taken, where it's happening overseas, it's all international, and sometimes that creates a little bit of distance mentally for us. Like, oh, it could never happen to anyone I know and love. But locally, we've seen so many busts by the Dallas Police Department and Homeland Security and the FBI in places like Frisco and Plano, right in our backyards. And that reminds us that it's happening here.
We talk about that misconception of it happening elsewhere. What do you want people to know about the reality of human trafficking, sex trafficking, right here in North Texas?
I want people to know that Texas still ranks very high in this crime. Texas ranks second in the nation for highest number of human trafficking victims. This includes sex trafficking and labor trafficking. Whether it's sex trafficking or labor trafficking, it's the use of force, fraud, or coercion to compel someone to either commit a sexual act or to work against their will. So Texas ranks second in the nation. Dallas ranks second in the state, right behind Houston. So we know that it's happening right here. I also want people to know that traffickers are master manipulators who are preying on the very real needs of the people that they are victimizing. So if you have a 15-year-old girl who doesn't feel loved at home, maybe she doesn't like her mom's new boyfriend, or she's being abused at home, or she's being bullied in school, these everyday traumatic experiences are an open door for the trafficker who's going to show up like a knight in shining armor, who's going to show up like an answer to a problem and whisk her away into this world. And she can be coming home every single night and still be a trafficking victim. I think that's another thing that people assume that, well, maybe she's been kidnapped and she's been trafficked, or she's a runaway and she's been trafficked. And while that does happen, trafficking victims can live and function and be with family and come home every night, have jobs, be in different environments, and still be victimized by this crime. So it's important that we look out for some of the signs and symptoms, especially if you're a parent, because a 15-year-old girl is the prime target. The average age that a girl is trafficked in this country is 15 years old.
One of the great things about your website, newfriendsnewlife.org, is you have education for parents, for educators on what to look out for, and also the dangers, whether it's online or even at school, because they can become victims at their own school and be groomed at their own school, correct?
Yes, correct. The grooming process is like step one for the trafficker. A lot of that happens online, where he is building that relationship with her. She may not know who's on the other end of the computer screen or the other end of her phone. And I remember a police officer telling me once that the most dangerous place for a child to be is in their bedroom with a cell phone. So that online grooming is such a critical step in the process. And so parents have to be familiar with who their children are communicating with. Does she have older friends? Does she have older male friends? Is she coming home with money that you didn't give her? Does she have on the latest and greatest and you didn't buy it for her? Does she have tattoos? Does she have jewelry with initials or someone's name on them? Like, the signs are so subtle as he is luring her into this environment. And it's so important for parents to be on the lookout for anything that's different or off about their child, to consider, is he or she being groomed by someone else.
And when you're talking about tattoos, it can be those QR codes like behind the ear.
Yes, we've seen barcodes on the inner lip, at the back, very nape of the neck or behind the ear, as you mentioned. And they're moving now to the jewelry pieces. So it's a locket and you open it up and it's an initial or a letter of his name or his actual name. So they are becoming so much more cunning and subtle, and we have to become more aware
and
as
tech
parents.
savvy.
And tech savvy, yes.
And that's why I love so much that you offer those tips for parents on your website so that they understand the reality of the situation and how any child is at risk.
Yes, this is a crime. We cannot say it enough. That's happening right in our own backyard, right in our city and right in our state. And we're not looking for white vans in a parking lot. I think that gives us a false sense of security. If I can just keep my children safe and away from parking lots at night, they'll be fine. But your child or someone you know or love could be victimized right under our noses.
My guest once again today, Bianca Davis, and Bianca is the Chief Executive Officer of New Friends, New Life. They are a North Texas nonprofit whose mission is to restore and empower trafficked and sexually exploited teen girls, women, and their children, providing them access to education, to job training, mental health, spiritual support, and so much more. New Friends, New Life also drives awareness of this issue of human trafficking and its prevalence. Think it can't happen in your neighborhood? Well, think again. In fact, just last month, an FBI operation in North Texas ended with more than 200 people arrested and more than 100 children rescued from online sexual exploitation. For information on the work that New Friends, New Life does to raise awareness and to help victims of human trafficking, go to newfriendsnewlife.org. So let's dive into the programs that you have in place, Bianca, to help survivors of sex trafficking and human trafficking.
Yeah, so New Friends New Life started about 27 years ago when a woman walked into a local church. She had been dancing in a bar and she reached out and said, I need help. Help me to start over. And this was before human trafficking was even a federal crime. This was before we started talking about it in our social conversations. But the group of women at that church just knew that one woman needed help, and they started surrounding her with emotional support, financial support, spiritual support, and she kept bringing her friends out of the environment. So here we are now serving about 350 women and girls every year. We serve women and teens separately because they have different needs, but the goal is still the same. Get them through the trauma and back to the life that they deserve, a life that's free from abuse, free from fraud, coercion, or force. And we do that in several ways. We have the counseling that we provide. Many survivors of trafficking, if you look at their backgrounds, they have witnessed or experienced domestic violence, childhood sexual abuse, all of these traumas. And so our therapists are trained to unpack that safely and get them back on the road to recovery. Then we look at their basic everyday needs. Where are you sleeping? What are you eating? How are you taking care of yourself physically? So we connect them to resources. And then the third piece is the economic empowerment. How do we now reintroduce her to society? That means making sure that she has a job. And to get a job, does she need education? Does she have a criminal record from what she was forced to do while she was being trafficked? And how do we get that erased or sealed or expunged so that she can move forward? So it's such an exciting and rewarding experience for us as the service providers, but of course for the women. As a matter of fact, we just had one of our graduations. We had 6 women graduate from our program, and they were able to walk in a cap and gown down the aisle of Preston Road Church of Christ, and the Dallas Symphony Orchestra sent a quartet and they played Pomp and Circumstance.
Oh.
And these women brought their children and their grandchildren, their supervisors. It is such an emotional and special accomplishment, and it lets her know that we see her and that she deserves everything that we want for our lives. She wanted for her life, and now she has a chance to do that. And so the graduation is the culmination of the women's program. And then with our teens, as I said, the goals are similar, but we go about it a little differently. With our teens, we see girls from the ages of 12 to 22, and we're helping them with their homework. We're helping them apply for college. We're helping them decide, what do I want to do after high school? We're talking about healthy dating tips so that she can leave our program without becoming a victim of this crime.
Do you find that when people hear about a dancer, someone working at a strip club, that they don't think of them as victims? They think that was their choice, that they don't think that they're being trafficked.
Yes.
That you're having to educate people about that.
That is such a great point. People do not understand how interlocked these issues are. About 70% of the women that come to New Friends, New Life were trafficked in local strip clubs. Wow. So they're in that environment, and you're thinking, as you said, it's consensual and she's an adult and if she's choosing to dance. But what we know is the crime of trafficking is happening in those environments. So in many cases, she has a trafficker or a pimp, someone who is forcing her to give him the money that she is making. And if she doesn't do it, there are consequences to it. So the crime of trafficking is just interlocked with the strip club environment. It's interlocked with the prostitution environment. There is no prostitution without sex trafficking. And that's what makes the verdict so frustrating to us, because if he could be charged with transporting prostitution or whatever that charge was, how do you get that charge and separate it from the crime of trafficking? So the environment is all interlocked and linked together. And so a lot of our education is helping people connect the dots. And that's particularly for the buyer, because the buyer is an everyday guy, right? He's not a deviant in a cage somewhere. One of the busts that happened in Plano, if you remember the descriptions of the occupations of the buyer, it was like a youth pastor, a high school football coach, and a corporate executive. These are fathers and brothers and husbands, are everyday men. And many of those men, if they walk into a strip club or they watch online pornography, they're not thinking, I am fueling a crime of sex trafficking. Yeah. They're not connecting those dots. They're thinking it's consensual, they're adults.
They joke about it.
They joke about it. And so we believe that if men really knew what was happening behind the scenes, most men would make a different choice. And so there's hope there that if we help them connect the dots, that we can put an end to the demand for this crime.
Last month, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled against challengers to a Texas law that requires pornographic websites to verify the age of users in an effort to protect minors. Mm-hmm. And the adult entertainment industry had argued that violated the free speech right of adults. Mm-hmm. Was this a big win for New Friends, New Life?
It was huge. And as a matter of fact, we had one of the leaders, pioneers of this movement. Her name is Lila Mickelwaite, and she has been single-handedly working to take down Pornhub. She wrote a book called Takedown, and it's the fight against Pornhub. And she has gotten 91% of the videos removed from those sites because she's been able to prove they are underage. There's criminal activity taking place. It's non-consensual.
Because so many people think it is consensual,
right.
that was that woman's choice to do that.
Right. Most of the time she's under the influence of drugs, and going back to the definition of the crime, someone else is profiting from her doing that. And so to have someone like Lila Mickelwaite come and further educate and support us, there is a petition that she has on her website that anyone can sign to really shut down Pornhub. And she was smart enough to go after the merchants, the people who are allowing you to use your credit card to sign up to the sites. It's huge that we connect the dots in a way that we are paying attention to things like age verification, consent, all of the things that we know fuel this crime.
With all the programs that you have for the victims, the teen girls and the women and their children, part of New Friends, New Life is your community outreach to make sure that people are educated. One of the programs is targeted directly at men.
Yes.
Tell me about that program and the importance of that program.
Oh, my goodness. I love our men's advocacy group so much. It is critical to our mission to engage men in the solution. So our men's advocacy group is made up of everyday gentlemen, whether they are leaders in their community, they are in sports, they're in clergy, they're fathers, brothers, and they just say, I want to make a difference. And so they join the men's advocacy group and they get to volunteer in a very special way. We take them through training, but they do things like they show up on Valentine's Day with roses and chocolate and interact with our women in a safe, healthy manner. And our women always say, I've never had a something for nothing experience, whether I never got a compliment that didn't cost me something. So they're rewiring how this relationship between men and women can look. They also provide mock interviews, which is so critical as women are going through our program and we're preparing them for jobs. We want them to have this real life experience. And so men will come in their suits and they will do individual and panel style interviews. And it helps our women talk through their work experience or lack of. How do you explain what you've been doing for the last 5 years? And also, how do you look a man in the eye who may look like someone from your past without being triggered, with maintaining your confidence? And so being able to do mock interviews or show up for the summer bash, show up on Valentine's Day, it's an important part of us really shifting the conversation. And then we have educational events like our men's breakfast, which is where we brought in Lila Micklethwait to talk to the men, to help them see, one, you're a part of the solution, and this is how you can end the demand for this crime.
It's not a victimless crime.
This is not a victimless crime. And it was pretty courageous for the men to show up. We were at the Dallas Country Club on a Monday morning at 7:30 talking about online porn, and the place was packed. And that gives us so much hope to know that men are stepping forward and saying, hey, what can I do? We're the ones that can end this. How do I do that?
How often do you hear from the men when you educate them about the reality of human trafficking and sex trafficking that they say, I never knew?
They share it regularly. If they're on our men's advocacy group board, we meet every other month. And so they're sharing their experience. But the everyday men's advocacy group member will also say, hey, I was able to talk to my 12-year-old son about what he's looking at on the internet. Or now I know how important it is for me to be there when my 17-year-old daughter has someone show up to take her on a date. Because presence is so important. Just being present. You don't have to be a super dad. You don't have to have all the answers. But your presence is a deterrent to the trafficker because he knows that someone cares about her. He's going to go and try and find someone who is the path of least resistance. Mm-hmm. If you show up and be present, you can stop a lot of this before it even starts. And so men understanding that they have that type of power and influence, it really changes the game for them and obviously changes the game for us.
My guest once again today in studio, Bianca Davis, and Bianca is the Chief Executive Officer of New Friends, New Life. They're a North Texas nonprofit that restores and empowers formerly trafficked and sexually exploited teen girls, women, and their children. They provide access to education, job training, mental health, and spiritual support. And we're highlighting them today because coming up in just 10 days on July 30th, it's the World Day Against Trafficking in Person. So I wanted to raise awareness about this issue, and I wanted to shine a light on New Friends, New Life and the work that they are doing to help those who have survived this crime and the work that they are doing to educate the public. For information, visit newfriendsnewlife.org. Of course, for you to be able to do what you do, you need to fundraise, and one of your biggest fundraisers is coming up in September. Recently, you announced that actress Lucy Liu, who many remember from the Charlie's Angels movies and from Kill Bill and the TV show Elementary, she is going to be your featured speaker at this year's Stand For Her Luncheon. It's going to be held September 12th at the Omni Hotel in Dallas. And if somebody wants information, you can go to newfriendsnewlife.org. But Lucy has been a huge advocate for victims of trafficking.
Yes, we are so excited to have Lucy Liu as our keynote speaker for the luncheon. And more than just her star power, the fact that she has produced multiple documentaries on human trafficking, shows her passion and interest in the issue. And it's just another voice saying, we can do something about this. I think when we think of the numbers, it's a $350 billion worldwide industry. You look at that and you're like, what could I ever do with something like that, with numbers like that? But our hope is that Lucy reminds everyone who's in that room that right here in our own backyard, we can make a difference. We can save a life. We can change a life. We can change someone's future. So we are really excited to have her and her wealth of knowledge on the issue and her passion for the issue and just her class and charm. We're thrilled that she'll be a part of our messaging this year.
And as exciting as it is to hear from someone like Lucy Liu, you also have women who have been through the program speak and give their own testimony about what they've been through.
Yes, every year we are able to share a testimonial from a survivor and a graduate, and we do not take that lightly. It is such an intimate and vulnerable part of their lives. But they are so healed and transformed by the time they get through the program that they show up and they literally look just like us. Like if you were in a room, you will not know who the survivor is or who the ally or friend is. And so we're excited about sharing another powerful story and having a woman talk about her journey and how she utilized every resource that New Friends, New Life offered to turn her life around and what that means for her now. So it always is a tearjerker, but in the most promising and hopeful way. It gives us hope that we can make a difference and that you can make a difference right here in North Texas on the issue of human trafficking.
You do have so many amazing stories that come through the doors of New Friends, New Life. Is there one story in particular that has just really captured your heart?
Oh man, there's so many. I can think of a physical transformation that happened with one of our members. And it made me think of how we probably want to start taking photos, like almost like before and after.
Yeah.
Because when you see those women walk through the doors and they're literally thinking, are you for me or not? Are you just like everyone else? Are you going to disappoint me? Are you going to turn me away, or is it going to be different here? But we had one woman who came in, and because of the substance abuse from her past, she literally didn't have any teeth. No teeth. She went through our program, utilized all of the resources, has a full set of teeth, has a job. And you say that and you're like, well, a full set of teeth, but it literally changes her face.
Yes.
Her countenance, her smile,
Confidence.
Everything is different. Her confidence, and to see her go out for those job interviews, get the job, conduct the mock interviews with our MAG members, go into our donations closet and get the outfit to wear to the interview and celebrate the success she has now is one of my favorite stories. And every now and again, she'll send emails from the clients that she serves in her industry that talk about her customer service, and she'll just send it our way. And we just light up when we read about her success because it's permanent. It's long-term, it's sustainable. We don't want her to ever have to. Now, if she needed to come back, of course, our doors are open. But our goal is that she is set on a new path that allows her to continue moving just forward. Every step is always going to be forward. So I love that story.
Your logo is a butterfly. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happens to your members.
Yes.
Is they become butterflies.
Yes. You know, and our vision statement is that we are creating a community where women and girls can soar above the limits of their past to achieve their dreams. And that's what we see every day when they're graduating from our learning academy that we have on site, or we just had a huge legal win from our legal advocacy clinic. They're soaring above the limits of their past to achieve their dreams. That's what they get to do every day. That's what we get to help them do.
Bianca, besides attending the Stand For Her Luncheon September 12th at the Omni Hotel in Dallas, featuring keynote speaker Lucy Liu, the actress, how else can the community help New Friends, New Life?
We would love people to volunteer if they'd like to do that. We have so many opportunities on site where you can help serve dinner. You can harvest produce in our garden. We have a wonderful garden with a partnership between the Meadows Foundation, Bonton Farms, and New Friends New Life called Liberty Street Garden. So you can come in and help us pull produce and wash produce and sell them to the community and otherwise engage. So I would say volunteering. You can go to our website for information on that. And also, if you are a man and you're listening, we need you. We would love to have our men join the men's advocacy group. And for our women, we have the Circle of Friends. Our Circle of Friends do things like help plan baby showers. As many ways as you want to get involved, there's an open door. So I would say volunteer. And of course, if you can support the luncheon in any way or any of our other events, we'd love to have you. We're so grateful for this Dallas community that has allowed us to do this work for 27 years. Our doors are only open because people listen, people care, and people show up.
Find out more at New Friends New Life. I want to thank my guest, Bianca Davis, the Chief Executive Officer of New Friends New Life. Thank you so much for being on the program, Bianca.
Thanks so much for having me.